I was appointed as the president of the Lebanese League for Women in Business. We're investing in people and in ideas. Average ticket $1 million. You put them in a market that is very challenging. اللي هو Lebanon. للأسف, money does not disappear, it moves hands. So we have to trade 15 markets at the same time. We're sitting on a total of $60 million. Nothing went well. Incorporating is not easy. Fundraising for it is not easy. You always have to be subjective. My dream is up to $50 million. It was higher than $20 million, and they lost it. You can imagine on the 5th of August, I have no email.
Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of the AI-Based Business Show, the show where you best learn about business, entrepreneurship, tech, and startups. Today with me, I have Corine Kiame, investment manager at IM Fndng. Today, we're going to speak about the VC world, her experience, and VC in Lebanon specifically. Corine, welcome to the show.
Hello, Ahmad. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. I want to start ببلش من هون. Today, we are in Lebanon. We're looking at the news, seeing more restaurants are opening, higher prices, tourism is booming. On the other hand, what's happening to startups and investments in Lebanon?
Well, and unfortunately, Ahmad, it's a little bit dry on the investment side. In light of what happened in Lebanon, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the VC ecosystem so you get familiar a little bit with what happened. So the whole ecosystem, the venture capital ecosystem, started in Lebanon in the summer of 2013 when the governor of the central bank approved under the Article 331, approved for the commercial banks to invest between 4% and 6% of their capital in early stage businesses and venture capital funds. 2014, 2015 were beautiful years in Lebanon. We saw more than 10 or 12 venture capital firms being incorporated in Lebanon. A lot of fund managers repatriated to Lebanon to manage those funds. Every fund was holding on average anywhere between 30, 50. We even had one fund that was managing $17 million.
Wow.
So yeah, the ecosystem was quite booming. We saw the inception of accelerators. We saw the inception of incubators. So it was quite vibrant. Everything that I mentioned so far refers to commercial banks. So obviously, in light of it started with the Thawra in 2019. And given the situation of the commercial banks, obviously the ecosystem collapsed. So with all those VC disappearing, you can, de facto say that investment is almost dry, has almost dried in Lebanon. So from 2015 to 2019, around $250 million were invested under the VC ecosystem.
Okay.
And that was covering around 120 startups. And then, starting 2019 to date, we're barely 2 or 3 companies still operating in the ecosystem. So that was my long answer. My short answer is it has dried out almost.
Okay. I'm gonna come back and talk about all that, but I want to start with this. Like, if people understand what's happening, I want to go back. Who are you? Give me like a summary of your career up until today. Who's Corine? How did you get into this investment world? Why VC?
So I was born in 1980. I was at Athene de Beirut. I graduated in 1998. I did my bachelor's, my BA at St. Joseph University in economics, and then left to Paris, where I did my master's at Paris. Did an internship at AXA Investment Managers. Wasn't able to renew my papers, like the majority of the Lebanese, I guess. Came back to Lebanon, worked for a year or 2, then started really my professional career in the UAE. So in Lebanon, I worked for two financial institutions. I used to be a stock market trader on the US and European market.
Okay.
Why did I get into investment? I guess it simply started, when I was 14 or 15. I don't really remember, but I was at home and my dad was looking on the TV and somehow we stopped on the Bloomberg channel. I saw the numbers all over the screen. Those numbers make sense to them. Yeah, is it the sector? I was quite young at the time. And yes, of course. And I guess this is when I got aware of my love to math and to numbers. So went into economics, obviously at PSG, went to Paris, then traded stock market, very appealing. I loved the rush. I love, the market moving so fast. And the peak was when I left at the end of 2004 or beginning 2005. I started in January. I was the first person to join the team. So we were quite small. That was in 2015. Started by being simply, an analyst and as associate trader, and then left Dubai in 2014 as an executive director, the director, I don't remember. So, I saw the bulls, saw the bears, شفنا, UAE and MENA markets. We used to cover all 12 markets, so we used to trade 15 markets at the same time.
Wow.
We were managing, when I arrived to the company, to the department, around 30 or $40 million. And when I left, well, at the peak, allow me to say, we reached $1 billion as a department, not as a company. So the
Wow.
funds, the assets of the AUMs, the assets under management were around $1 billion. That was in the good year, and we collapsed long. So, 2005, 2008, beautiful years. We saw the bull, so the company grew. And the asset management department, I was the first at the peak. We were around 25 back there on average. And
Wow.
then SHUAA, when I joined SHUAA, around maybe 40 or 50 at the peak. We saw 500 with presence around the region. So I saw the goals. I saw really how companies can grow. I saw, strategies that being executed, and I guess that this part of my life, I learned a lot of, what is success, how can work together, etc. And then, Lehman came and taught us about risk diversification in a very sticky and harsh way. So the company SHUAA Capital that I used to work with went into a deal with a government body back at the time, and so it's convertible bonds as was being executed. So change of management. So a new company acquired SHUAA. I guess at the time came above 50%. They took control. We saw yet again the change of strategy. And ups and downs. So I guess in 2008 till 2010, we learned the real meaning of company losing AUMs, losing employees, stock market collapsing, startups closing, etc. So second, those two, the bull and the bear, played a lot in teaching me the two sides of every story. So I came back to Lebanon, so got married, obviously, while I was still living in Dubai. Have two girls. Today, the eldest is almost 15, the youngest, two girls, the youngest is almost 13. So I was still living in Dubai when I had my kids. And then in 2014, my husband at the time decided to come back to Lebanon. So he started working with a local bank. And for a year or a year and a half, I kept on doing the coming and going. I loved the Dubai experience, didn't want to leave SHUAA. So sit عامل 1 week in Dubai, 1 week in Beirut.
Wow.
And that was until the end of 2014, where the department that I used to work in at SHUAA closed down. So my family was already based in Lebanon. So I left SHUAA, came back to Lebanon, and after a couple of months, I started working with IM Capital. So the VC ecosystem, it just happened that I arrived early 2015. the article 331 was already out. Those VCs, were, like shaking form in Lebanon. So I said, why not venture into that ecosystem too? So I started working with IM Capital. IM is a venture capital fund, but the small difference in what we do and what other VC do is that we are a matching fund. And what we do is we can cover 50% of an investment ticket maximum.
Okay.
This is by mandate. So we do equity matching, equity guarantee. So we guarantee the investment of an angel or an institution in the underlying startup. And we do technical assistance, which is maximizing the value of our investments by providing them with the needed coaching, mentorship, or workshops that are needed.
Okay.
And another main difference was that we were fully funded by USA, but the remainder, as I mentioned earlier, were funded by the Lebanese commercial bank.
Okay.
So that's the easy side of my life, the professional, as if everything happened that easily and
if you look at it, stuff that happened over 10, 15 years that took you to where you are today. I want to really understand something, and especially in the VC world, most of the startups you invest in the VC mind, you write these off to zero. Out of 10 startups, one becomes a unicorn or one covers the fund. And you mentioned when you're at SHUAA, you went from zero to billions and from billions to zero. How do you manage this in your mental state? How do you persuade yourself and that's okay, and then we're gonna overcome this period of time and go to a better period of time?
The difference between my previous work and my current work is that previously we used to deal with listed markets. So it was, we used to trade the stock market itself. While today I ventured into venture capital, which is, investing in early stage and growth stage startups. So the thought is a little bit different. The liquidity is very different. But what I can tell you is, the bull and the bear that we saw at SHUAA, I guess, is today part of what I am, which is being completely insensitive to numbers. I think, Edna, we got, the hit of the bull and then the hit of the bear. Companies close, you just move on, it's yet another bad investment. So, the day you become sentimental with your investment is, I guess, when you lose the deal. You always have to be subjective. You really, need to trust your guts, especially in early stage. And I believe, early stage investment is an educated guess, realistically, because we're investing in people and in ideas. We haven't seen execution. We're betting on good execution. So, بالعكس, and what I learned in the UAE is fully, totally sensitive to numbers, which helped me a lot in my move to venture capital. And in VC, the risk is even wider. So as I can all, in listed companies, 70% of the trades are losing trades. In venture, I moved into a sector where 95 or 90% are losing trade. So, from where I stand, you just open and close their investment as objective as you can.
Okay. You worked in a volatile market before, and today Lebanon, I think, is one of the most volatile economies in the world. How do you manage this through the day-to-day and with startups?
And given that the country is full of problems, therefore it's very appealing to entrepreneurs. And I know there are a lot, every problem needs a solution, and here is when the creativity comes in and kicks in. Either, from one part. Obviously, the sequence of events, the Lebanon forced, I guess, more than 80% of the startups that were incorporated through the 331 to shut down. However, if I want to look at the bright side, I would say the ecosystem starting last year will witness the comeback of the second stage entrepreneur. This entrepreneur that opened a company and closed the ta'allam, he knows exactly what the problems are. He knows better how to manage. So this is a beautiful comeback usually in any ecosystem. And then, last but not least, when you talk investments, it's usually in head markets that are shaky, where you can find good trades.
Okay.
So in bear markets, it depends the type of investor that you are. But from where I stand, at least my philosophy is being contrarian, and we were always contrarian to the market. So today, in a bear market, you just need to look well to find which sector will benefit despite the crisis. In investment world, we say money does not disappear, it moves hands. So, money will move and shift from one sector to another. And this is something that we executed at IM. So Hala, I will tell you a little bit about the shift that we've done from IM Capital to IM Ventures, given the blast and the whole disappearance of the local ecosystem.
Okay. I want to speak about one more point before I get to IM Fndng Capital and how you invest in startups and all that. Today you said you get most of your funding from USAID. First, I want to ask why USAID, and second, I want to ask, you said you cover 50% of these investments, and then the 50% is covered by other individuals. How do you persuade these other people to come and invest with you or alongside you, especially that we're talking about a volatile economy like Lebanon that may change in a blink of an eye?
All right. So I'm going to divide the pre-2020, and I'm going to talk about post-2020. I know things changed a lot. If I want to focus a little bit on the pre-2020, IM Capital was incorporated in April of 2015. The seed was, the initial investment came from USAID, just because, at the time you had the 31 article that just came out. And I guess, they wanted to participate in that, ecosystem that is usually focused on youth and on, women, and a lot of impact numbers that fulfills, I guess, their vision and their mission. So that was the seed money that they provided us with. But given the performance of the team, we were able to increase the $15 million by pitching again to USAID for another $5 million. And today we're sitting on a total of $60 million fully funded by USAID.
Oh.
So I did from a donor's perspective. Pre-2020, it was a matching fund as well, but we used to invest on a deal-by-deal basis. So just like I said, it was a booming ecosystem. We had around 10 or 12 VCs, including a matching program called ISME that was the World Bank money, just like we managed the USAID money. So we used to receive entrepreneurs for the ones that fulfilled our selection criteria. We used to work on an info memo with the entrepreneur, present it to an investment committee, then apply it to the board of directors. So it was a very clean and clear corporate governance, 3 levels of approval. And then, we used to approve half the ticket. And if the entrepreneur comes to IM and he wants $500,000, we used to approve $250,000. The remainder of the money was fundraised from the VCs themselves. So they were 10 or 12. So you had a big chance of finding at least one VC that was ready to pour the remainder ticket. And in very, very small instances, we used to, pitch the remainder money to private, help the entrepreneur pitch the remainder money to private investors. Because it wasn't the bulk of what we do. Our main matching partners pre-2020 were the local, the local venture capital. I'll mention MEVP, BNY, Cedar Mundi, ISME. Phoenician Fund, that there were quite many operational in Lebanon. So Haida, this is how the ecosystem looked pre-2020. The SHUAA started. VC money, which came from local commercial banks, completely dried up. Corona hit the world, August 2020 blast. But it just happened, at the end of 2020, IM Capital money was, almost drying up, and it was a 5 years program. So we got incorporated in 2015. We were almost, the program came to an end. So we approached again USAID. We didn't really approach them, but then they submitted a TOR for Lebanon, whereby they asked the whole ecosystem to propose a growth stage fund based in Lebanon. So we applied along with 8 other participants, I guess, at that time, and we were awarded again the project. It was a total of $40 million to be invested in growth stage entrepreneurs. That was that was early 2019 back then. Obviously, although everything happened, and I remember when we received the money 1 month after the blast.
Wow.
We had proposed, a whole project that today doesn't stand, and whatever we proposed was built on an ecosystem that was very vibrant in Lebanon. Then, between pitching and getting the money, things disappeared. Everything actually disappeared. So, but like when we received the money, we're so happy, and at least I was, really celebrating this big achievement. And then, راحت بيقولوا سكرة اجت فكرة okay, like who's going to be our matching partner? We're 1 month after the blast. It's Corona. People are in their houses. There is no way you meet entrepreneur.
You can.
لا you cannot suck at homes. يعني وكيف وقال the blast. يعني nothing went well. But we didn't stop working. So we decided to pivot into something called IM Ventures.
Okay.
So IM Ventures today does not do any more deals on a one-by-one basis. So starting 2020, given my pitch that money does not disappear, it just moves hands, and especially in upward market, you might find beautiful investment deals. So based on those 2 ideas, and given the positivity of the whole team, I have to say, we started, we pivoted a little bit to fund management, and instead of dealing with the startups on a deal-by-deal basis, we pivoted into a fund whereby we would fund a portfolio company, not individual companies, by choosing a sector at the beginning of each year. So we received the money in 2020, it was the year of Corona. The easiest choice was to go technology, and the most appealing and, performance-wise to invest in. We had IM Capital. We knew the venture capital ecosystem. We knew that $250 million were deployed. Obviously, we know the good deals, we know the bad deals, we know the matching partners. So we did everything over Zoom. We teamed up with the top 5 venture capital in Lebanon, which opened their portfolio company and proposed to IM up to 4 startup of companies that they've already invested in, and they would think would have a good performance going forward based on very specific selection criteria. So we did that with 5 VCs, each proposed 4 startups. We conducted a due diligence on 20 startups. How did we do it? Yes, we did it all over Zoom. But remember that those startups are existing portfolio companies from VCs that we know. So we know that due diligence is fulfilled, shareholder agreements are drafted, the entrepreneurs are ready, they're familiar with what we're doing. So we were able, obviously, with the help of all the VCs, to go very, very fast, to decrease the number of investments we shortlisted. So we went through selection criteria where the VCs themselves were part of the investment committee. We went down from 20 startups to eventually investing in 11.
Okay.
So we created a portfolio of 11 companies. IM Ventures seeded this fund with $6 million. And we went to private investors and fundraised for the remainder $6 million.
Wow.
So 2020, 2021 was the creation of SOS Fund. It's an equity play, purely dedicated to technology company, ICT companies. A total of $12 million. IM invested 50% of the fund, and then 12 private investors funded the remainder. 2021, 2022, the year of full free fall, allow me to say, of the Lebanese currency, and our beautiful creativity of creating a new currency called the dollar. But we focused a little bit on the devaluation of the currency, and obviously the winner was going to be the local manufacturing, especially with this devaluation. Usually prices become more appealing on the export. So 2022 we started with local manufacturing fund, did exactly the same procedure, but this time we were able to go out and fundraise, in real and really meet the entrepreneurs. So we focused on local manufacturing. We decided to have to focus on 3 subsectors, which was the agro-food, paper and textile, and chemicals. Those were our sector of focus. Created a selection criteria, presented it to stakeholders. We had received around 77 files. Did an investment committee throughout the year, and in 18 months we were able to close 8 deals, average ticket $1 million. IM Ventures seeded the SMAF, the fund was called SMAF, Scale Manufacture and Export Fund. To seed the fund was $6 million, and again we went and fundraised $6 other million from private investors. That was 2021, 2022, and finished, we closed the SMAF late last year, at the last quarter of last year, Q4 2022. And then, the obvious next sector of focus would be solar.
Okay.
So listen up in the devaluation, and in parallel, what happened with the companies is that whatever attractiveness that they have won from an export perspective, they lost it. The price of the fuel quadrupled on some of the PNLs, which was drastic to see in Lebanon. So we decided we said it should be the year of solar. So 2022, 2023. Today the team is working on a fund called Solar and.
Okay.
We see that the fund for $2 million TIF, which is another program funded as well by USAID, matched the amount of our investment. So today the fund is sitting on $4 million. And the target is by the end of 2024, I guess, if I'm not mistaken, is to raise the fund to $20 million with an average investment ticket of $500,000.
I want to, بدي احكي شوي about the numbers before I get into how you select your criteria, how do you meet with founders, what's your criteria? What is the expected return? Like when you go and sit with USAID and they provide you this $40 million and like, okay, we're going to invest $6 million today, $6 million next year. How are you pitching them? What expected return are they expecting from you? A 2x on return on the money, 4x? Is there kind of an understanding there, or is it we're going to invest and we don't know what's the return?
So Ahmed, you should consider USAID as the LP of the fund.
Right.
So it's usually the other way around. You tell them this is what you're going to do. This is the expected return. And, from the beginning of the project, either they see you or they don't. So it really depends on the sector that we're targeting. But usually a venture capital would expect a 30% IRR on a yearly basis. And, this is, pure VC play. And when you talk about, more impact fund, the returns will go lower than 7 and 8%.
Okay. Because
there is the heart attached to it too.
Right. Up until now, you don't. A typical fund usually takes 5 to 10 years to expect to get the returns back. So you started in 2020. You can't really figure out up until probably 2025, 2026.
No, for SOS, for SMEF and SOS, no, yes, it's still super early to judge. However, we did conduct one exit. So SOS did execute an exit a couple of months back, and we distributed the proceeds to the investors. And we are hoping to see our second exit within the next 3 months. So things are going fast. Just because the fund was constructed in a way that it targeted the top the VC's choices in terms of top performing companies.
Right.
So that was a main idea of that, which helped us fundraise so quickly for that fund. They were mature companies. We were just pumping them with fresh capital. Today we talk about fresh capital. So we were able to pump with fresh capital, which boosted the performance quite quickly of some of the companies.
Okay. Selection criteria. I'm a founder today. I reach out to IM Fndng. I reach out to you. I'm pitching you my idea. How do you look at me as a startup? What's your selection? What's your checklist? Like, okay, this checks. I'm gonna invest in you.
It's not as simple, and there is a lot of subjectivity to it. However, as soon as we create a fund, we're very transparent, as I am, to post on our website the selection criteria, and that would include the total percentage that the founder holds as a startup. We will never invest in a company that has the majority investors, and we're here to empower the entrepreneurs themselves. So that is usually a minimum equity for the founder. Sometimes we might choose a size of the company. So for it to have at least 3 years of operation. Sometimes we say, we would go with early stage up to a year of incorporation. Sometimes we might give a minimum sales that is approved by the fund, just because the financial instrument would require a certain maturity. And we're very flexible with our selection criteria. So we usually choose 7 or 8. It really depends on the sector that we target. So if you go to the website, you'll find a very clear selection criteria for the technology firms. When we were working on SOS, the local manufacturing had a completely different set of selection criteria. That's why I don't want to just tell them to you. It really depends on the sector. And if you go now and check the solar fund selection criteria, you will see that it totally fits the sector that we operate in. So we conduct a very thorough analysis into the type of companies and decide accordingly the financial instrument, which eventually ends up by dictating the selection criteria of the startups themselves. Okay.
We started technology. Can you give us some examples about companies you've invested in that either exited or are unique startups that worked in the system back in 2020?
Two exits. I'll tell you about the 2 exits that we saw. One of the investment was Thinkers. So Thinkers is a beautiful woman-led company that was able to sell its stake to a UK-based institution, and they exited all the venture capital firms that were on the cap table. That was one of our exits. Another one was called Klangu. Sorry, it's Mikey. Yeah, it's Mikey, which came in now. We saw a US investor acquiring the whole team along with the technology. So those were our 2 exits. At SOS, we carry around 3 or 4, which I guess is more than 40 or 50% of the fund in mature companies. Some of them saw beautiful second rounds, and we are hoping to exit one of those in the coming 3 months. But realistically, Kamena, we had a very big company where we invested at a valuation. I'm not going to give exact number, but allow me to say it was higher than $20 million. And today, we saw a beautiful down round. Let me put it this way: a beautiful down round, given the situation. And it's hard for those startups, Ahmad. You put them in a market that is very challenging, the whole Lebanon. Obviously, a lot of startups had to export their technology outside Lebanon faster than their maturity, given the situation that happened in Lebanon for the past 3-4 years. A lot of those, ventures into Saudi Arabia, and we know what happened, between Lebanon and Saudi Arabia. Imagine, Ahmed, the local manufacturing hit, and we were fundraising for SMAC exactly at the moment where they closed those barriers. We have a lot of companies that decided to venture into Egypt, and the situation deteriorated in Egypt. Some of other, which they were our portfolio companies, but as well we saw startups venturing into the Levant, into Iraq, where we saw Khamenei devaluation of the currency. I mean, it wasn't it wasn't hard. It was hard, internally and externally. At the end, previously, pre-2020, I'm going to stay with the pre-2020. Pre-2020, probably Lebanon was going through difficult times as well. However, the world was doing okay. So it was greener on the other side. So at the beginning of all this, the drama, the companies that had their revenues based on the outside were so beautiful jump in there. But nowadays, unfortunately, it's not greener anyway. So it's quite hard for the startups. Even if we tend as investors to be quite tough in our judgments, especially that we expect returns and exits. But it's not easy.
I want to ask, how do you manage your portfolio? Do you invest and let the founder be, or are you a close manager? You're helping the founder day in, day out, or you're reaching out to the founder trying to help them, or are you more of the investor that invests and let the founder be and figure out his own stuff?
Yeah, I usually don't like the use of the word help. We don't help.
Right. Yeah.
Maximize the help. No. Some companies help. That's not bad. Black is helping. I talked about my NGO hat where we help. But at IM, we maximize the value of our investment. This is what we do. So we utilize technical assistance to boost our investment, to boost the performance of our investment. So you won't see at any point I am coming and giving coaching or mentorship for non-portfolio companies. So given that we do it for the companies where we own a stake in, so our interests are aligned. So you'd expect that we really handhold the entrepreneurs. We have 3 senior investment people in the post-investment monitoring department that would handhold the entrepreneurs one by one depending on their needs. So we might invest in companies that don't require our intervention. We might invest in companies where we sit on the board. We might force a change of CEO. We might force some changes in strategy. And in some other times, we might be super light and just helping them in their marketing strategy, introducing them to experts, etc. So we follow very, very closely our investments. This is very core at IM.
Manufacturing, and this is honestly something dear to my heart because I am a big believer that any country in the world wouldn't succeed if it doesn't have a big a booming manufacturing and agriculture sector that grows in the country and helps the people of the country. What are you seeing? What's booming in the manufacturing industry? If I'm an investor today, or I want to come and start something, I have money, I want to start a business, or I'm a founder, where should I go to? What should I start, or what should I go and invest in this manufacturer ecosystem?
It's Ahmed, it's everything that is substitution to import. So today, given the devaluation of the local currency, it became very expensive to import. So here comes the time where we develop our own product. So the easiest way, if I want to answer it, the easiest way your question would be to go and check what is the total export in each sector, the total import, sorry, pre 2019, what was the country importing the most, and you would know what is the total consumption, that the demand is there for any type of product, and you say let me, do I know how to do it, and create your own manufacturing company. that would be the easy way around it. But obviously, doing that in Lebanon is not so easy. Incorporating is not easy. Fundraising for it is not easy. And you might sleep with a certain the N1, and you wake up the next day with a completely different vision and different flows of different. So it is quite tough, but we have invested in a beautiful local substitution, local production for import substitution at the SMF level, just today shiny and so you just need the will and the money for it. I mean, it's not easy. It's not cheap. Allow me to say.
Yes. You need equipment, pieces of land, manufacturing facility. Yes. Solar panels. What are you investing in solar panels? Are you investing in companies that are going and building solar? Like what's the type of investments you're doing you plan on doing in this fund?
It's a $20 million fund. Ticket size is average between $500,000 to $1 million. So we are talking about big industrial companies. The fund will allow a couple of smaller funds, but for the avoidance of any doubt and for the transparency of this podcast, I have to say that I left my position at IM.
Okay.
So today, my last day at the job is on the 31st of July. So in a couple of weeks. So yes. So as I said, it is geared toward big industrial companies.
You mentioned I saw a post on LinkedIn that you were going to leave IM soon, and I wanted to ask this: what's next?
So what's next? I guess my last day at the job is 1st of July. So you can imagine on the 1st of August, I have no emails. It's going to be, I guess, the first time literally in my life where I have nothing waiting for me. I'm happy that it's in August. It's peak of the summer. I don't think I feel bad. I'm going to try to enjoy the summer. But in parallel, what I did in March 2023, I was appointed as the president of the Lebanese League for Women in Business. So this is an NGO that was incorporated in Lebanon in 2006 with a main vision and mission, which is women economic empowerment and closing the equity gender gap in Lebanon. A lot of efforts were done throughout the years. They were able, from an advocacy perspective, to enforce the 205 law, which is the anti-sexual harassment. Today, we're working on a movement of 30% of women on board by 2030, along with a gender audit plan. So this is, where the heart is. So my brain is in investment, the heart is in the women economic empowerment. So today, we're hoping towards the end of towards Q3 or Q4 to establish an access to finance arm to LNW. So we're hoping to do it along with a consortium of CSOs and NGOs. So we're hoping that people and investors would handhold us to create. It is if I want to summarize it, it's going to be crowdfunding for an alternative investment fund with a gender equity lens. Okay. So here comes the time where I believe the private should team up with an investment mind. I'm hoping to attract other CSOs and NGOs to be part of this big dream. My dream is up to $50 million. So wow. This is the ultimate target. Hoping to close the first 10 million towards the end of this year. So big dreams, but given the experience and given the pain and given the know-how that we have at the LWB board, and along with all the beautiful other CSOs that I'm getting to meet every day. I think if the private teams up, we might make a change in terms of investment in Lebanon, and hopefully have this fund have a small ticket pivot into achieving gender equity. So it will have an impact, a big impact.
No, I love this. My last question is, let's say today you were able to raise $1 billion fund, $5 billion fund, or however big the fund is, and you have
بنسمك لبيب السما يا أحمد، بنسمك لبيب
and
السما.
like and you just have this unlimited amount of funding. What's your life mission? If Corinne today has, you drop everything and you have this amount of fund, what's your life mission?
It's exactly what I'm doing now.
Okay,
So, and
okay,
my dream is to close the gender equity gap. That's the ideal.
okay,
How do I do it? It's creating a carrot.
okay.
So today, every time you talk about women economic empowerment, means I talk to women or to men. Today, even if they believe in this pitch, even if they believe in gender equity, given what's happening in our market, it's very hard to execute. You'll find the majority of the people telling you, let me survive until the end of the month. First thing on my mind, and I think, it is understandable given the pain.
Right.
So the idea is, how about, we team up, we match investment and art, and try to do it by using a carrot. So yeah, if I want to give you, an easy example, would be to create a fund whereby, for example, the valuation of the companies would be correlated to their gender audit action plan.
Okay.
So, for example, the fund would invest in talent, and it can invest. The fund has a heart of being geared towards women-led companies. And when I say women-led, it's not having a bunch of women leading a company. It's the diversity that we refer to. So imagine I tell you you're a startup or you're growth stage company. I tell you like, do you have any woman on board? You tell me no, I have financial issues. So I tell you, okay, come and approach the fund, and if you get the appropriate yeses, we will give you a loan, or we will acquire an equity stake, or whatever the financial instrument would be. We will give you a discount or an earn out if you're diverse or not. And as the easiest answer, the easiest example, not answer, because that's not the model of the fund. The fund is equity based. But if I want to give you the easy example of that, the fund would approach people and say, okay, we are going to provide an interest rate of 20% to any company that gets a yes by getting the appropriate approval. It will charge for 12%. However, if you achieve your gender action plan, which is having one C-suite level or 30% C-suite level, having one founder, it's or having 50% of your team women, we will decrease your interest rate from, example, 12% to 2%.
Wow. Okay.
And here comes, that's people will not change unless you give them a carrot. Today, the biggest pain of the market is access to finance and access to market. So how about we create this investment arm that would solve the pain of access to market and access to finance? Access to finance is obviously the investment model. Like access to market, obviously, since we will be crowdfunding, we are hoping to have the diaspora, along, which would beautifully shine the mentorship and the coaching part.
Corinne, I really enjoyed this episode. We really went through a lot. Enjoyed hearing your thoughts. Just a summary of Lebanon. I never knew about the 331 article, so I learned that from you today, and I hope a bunch of our listeners learned that. I learned what's the situation today and how the startup ecosystem is functioning today and what we could do to improve it. So I appreciate your knowledge, and sharing that. Good luck on your new journey. So hope you achieve all your goals in that. Any last words? Where could people follow more of what you're doing? How could people find more about you?
So today, the last part of my interview, is available nowhere, I guess. We're still drafting the strategy internally at LLWBA. We're hoping to be ready towards the end of this month, and we will go public with it towards the end of the summer.
Okay.
I can be contacted obviously at LLWBA because within a month I will be losing my IM Fndng email, but I can be reached at LinkedIn. I'm always going to be in the investment world. It's, I guess, where I belong and what I love. It's really what I love. Empowering women the right way. Not only investing in women-led companies, but preaching today for inclusiveness, for diversity, because this is really what we believe. So I just hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope to meet you in person soon, Ahmed.
Inshallah, we will definitely do it.
Uh,
Thank you again for being on the pod.